What if the loudest places held the quietest pain? You open your eyes, but you don't remember closing them. The smell of wood smoke clings to your clothes. Something creaks above your head. The air is warm, thick with heat and the faint trace of spilled ale. You're sitting on a wooden bench near the fire, but it isn't yours. Not really. It's raining outside. You think it is, or maybe it stopped an hour ago and the water still runs from the roof in small, uncertain drips. A flickering candle lights the table, though most of its wax has melted sideways. You watch it slide. You've watched worse things fade. You can hear laughter, dull and distant, as if you're underwater. A mug thuds down nearby. Someone swears softly. No one notices you. No one ever does. And somehow, you prefer it that way. The tavern feels older than it looks. The beams sag low, like the roof is tired. The smoke curls in lazy spirals toward a hole in the ceiling that no longer bothers to be called a chimney. You breathe in carefully, like the air might betray you if you take too much. You shift slightly on the bench. Something squishes under your boot. You don't look. The fire snaps behind you, and for a moment the warmth reaches your spine. Your shoulders relax, not from comfort, but surrender. You came here looking for warmth, or was it a name? Maybe sleep, maybe forgiveness. The tavern doesn't ask. It just holds you quietly, beneath the rising smoke and the weight of worn wood. It wraps you in sounds, boots on straw, mugs on wood, rain on the roof, like a lullaby with no melody. Tomorrow, you might be noticed, or forgotten again. But not tonight. Tonight, you're part of the hush between tankards, part of the shadow. You wake to the soft weight of a blanket that doesn't belong to you. It smells like smoke and garlic and sleep. Your boots are still on, and your head leans heavy against the wood-paneled wall behind you. Someone snores nearby, slow and steady, like a bear dreaming of better days. The fire is low now, just glowing coals and the occasional sigh of heat. You shift your hand and feel something pressed under your palm, a crust of bread, half eaten and forgotten. You leave it there. The tavern is quiet, but not silent. A chair creaks as someone rises too carefully. A log settles deeper into the hearth, and somewhere above you, a floorboard groans with the complaint of someone turning in their sleep. You don't remember falling asleep, but you never really meant to stay awake either. That's how it goes here. The night wraps around you until the edges blur and time slows to a murmur. There's a smell in the air now, not the meat or the mold or the ale, something older, like stone and wet wool and memories too tired to be told again. You know it from other places, cold cellars, quiet chapels, and the corners of old barns where secrets were once whispered and never retrieved. The barkeep moves behind the bar. You hear her before you see her. She hums, but not for joy. It's a sound to fill the air, like a net cast over ghosts. She doesn't look at you. She never does. But you feel her eyes anyway, like the weight of a coin you haven't yet paid. Your mug is still on the table, dry now. A ring of stale foam clings to the bottom, as if reluctant to admit the night is over. You stretch slowly, your muscles heavy from uneven sleep. Your neck aches. Your hands are cold. There's dirt under your nails. You don't remember digging, but that doesn't mean you didn't. The light changes. It slips in through a window covered in greasy cloth, turning everything pale and gray. Morning, or something close to it.
The kind of hour when only bakers and thieves are awake. You're not sure which one you've been lately. Someone coughs near the hearth, a raspy sound like dust being shaken out of lungs. You glance over and see a man with a crooked hat and one boot missing. His eyes meet yours, briefly. Neither of you speak. What would there be to say? You rise, carefully, slowly. The room tilts for a breath and then steadies. Your bench creaks in protest. Beneath your seat, a dog lifts its head, sniffs your knee, and lays back down. You step around the puddle near the door. You don't ask what it is. No one ever does. At the bar, the keeper waits. She wipes a cup with a rag that seemed too much. Her eyes are lined with years and things that didn't get said. You place a coin on the wood. Not enough. Never enough. But she takes it anyway. You nod. She nods. That's more kindness than you expected. Then the door groans open. The world waits outside, damp and uncertain. But for now, you hesitate. You glance back at the fire. The coals still glow, faintly, like something waiting to be remembered. You wonder who else sat here before you, what they carried, what they forgot. And you wonder, just briefly, if you'll return. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
You step outside into a morning that hasn't made up its mind. The sky hangs low, smudged with clouds the color of old wool. The street is mostly mud, scattered with straw and last night's arguments. Your breath leaves your mouth in pale curls, drifting upward like secrets that can't be held. The tavern door closes behind you with a heavy sigh. Not a slam, not a welcome. Just a sound that says, "We've seen too many come and go to bother naming them." You walk, slowly. Not because you're in a hurry, but because your legs haven't quite remembered who they belong to. The town is half awake. Shutters cracking open, smoke rising from chimneys, a woman shaking out a rug with more anger than dust. You don't know where you're going, only that your boots make a soft squelch with every step, and your shadow walks slightly behind you, as if it too is unsure. Past the smithy, past the well, past a boy feeding something that might be a pig or a very fat dog. He doesn't look up. Then you hear it. A clatter, sharp and sudden. Back toward the tavern. A stool knocked over? A mug dropped? No, louder than that. Voices rise, not in cheer this time, but in sharp, clipped tones, the kind that carry tension like flint waiting for spark. You turn. You shouldn't, but you do. Back at the tavern, the door is open. Someone stands in it, tall, broad, a cloak pulled tight around their shoulders. Their face is hidden by the light behind them, but they're looking at you. Not around you, not past you, at you. And then they step back inside. The door closes again. You stand there for a moment, unsure whether to laugh or run. You choose neither. Instead, your feet carry you back toward the smell of old smoke and burnt onions, toward the low hum of voices starting again. Inside, the tavern has changed, subtly. Tables are slightly shifted. A new scratch mars the wall near the bar. Someone you don't remember seeing last night sits at your table, turning your empty mug with one finger like it's a riddle. The fire crackles again. The light is different now, morning pushing in, but not too hard, like it knows not to be rude. You approach your old bench. The stranger looks up. He doesn't smile, doesn't scowl either, just tilts his head. "You left something," he says. His voice is low, almost bored. You glance down.
A folded scrap of paper sits where your plate used to be. You don't remember writing anything, but you sit. Carefully. The tavern breathes around you. The barkeep says nothing. She only watches. You unfold the paper. One line. Not written in your hand. You asked to be forgotten, but someone remembered. You look up. The stranger is gone. Only the echo of footsteps and the smell of rain on old wood.
You stay seated long after the stranger disappears. The paper remains in your hand, creased from where your fingers gripped it too tightly. Its message is short, but it clings to your thoughts like wet fabric. You asked to be forgotten, but someone remembered. You read it again. The handwriting is unfamiliar, crooked, hurried, but not clumsy. You look at the barkeep. She's polishing the same mug over and over, like she's waiting for something to happen or trying to stop it from happening again. You open your mouth to speak, but nothing comes out. The words don't feel ready, or maybe you're not. The tavern around you breathes like a tired animal. A man by the hearth is snoring again. The bard is gone. In his place is a sack, half open, with a lute string hanging out like a severed thread. The coals in the fire shift. You watch the glow deepen into red, like embers remembering something painful. You fold the paper and slide it into your pocket. You shouldn't keep it, but you do. Your mug waits, steam rising gently, swirling in a way that suggests someone, somewhere, poured it for a reason. You sip. It's the same bitter warmth, earthy, sharp, almost medicinal, like someone once believed it could cure a heartbreak. You lean back, let the sounds carry you. There's a soft thud upstairs, a bed frame moving. Then silence again. Then footsteps descending the stairs, slow, deliberate. Whoever it is isn't rushing. They want to be heard. You don't turn around. You wait for the barkeep to react. She doesn't. The footsteps reach the bottom, pause, and then a man appears in the corner of your vision. You glance sideways. He's older, tall, with a patchy beard and a coat that hangs like it's too heavy for him now. He doesn't look at you, just makes his way to the back table, the one no one ever seems to sit at, not even drunks. He drops into the seat like he's been carrying something for years, then pulls out a pipe, taps it against the table 3 times, and waits. That's when the barkeep finally moves. She sets down her mug, wipes her hands on her apron, and walks to the man without a word. She places a bowl in front of him, steaming pottage, and turns back. Her eyes flick briefly toward you. It's not a look of warning. It's a look of memory. You feel it, something pulling at you like a thread tucked too tightly into the hem of an old coat. You rise, slowly. Each joint complains. The air shifts with you. You walk toward the back table. You don't ask yourself why. The man watches your approach. His face doesn't change. Not welcoming, not unkind, just expectant, like he's seen this part of the story before. You sit. He gestures to your mug. Careful. First sip always tastes like lies. You offer the faintest shrug. Maybe that's why it's familiar. He nods, then scoops a spoonful of stew, blows on it, eats. The smell is oddly comforting. Root vegetables, barley, something sharp like onion or regret. He swallows, looks at you again.
They say you were here before. You blink. Do they? They do. He taps the pipe again, but doesn't light it. I remember, he says quietly. What do you remember? He leans back. The bench groans. Not everything, but enough. You came in from the South Road. You were soaked, wounded maybe, or just pretending to be. Sat near the fire, paid in foreign coin. You say nothing. You don't remember this version of yourself, but it doesn't feel wrong. They were looking for someone that night. 3 riders. Didn't say your name, but their silence said more than shouting would have. You look down at your hands. A small scar crosses your left thumb. You've never known how you got it. Or maybe you have. The man stirs his stew. He needed some color back in his life. You didn't speak much, but you listened, and someone trusted you with something. What kind of something? He pauses. The kind you hide in floorboards or under skin. You feel your heartbeat shift, slow and heavy. They left before dawn, but you stayed. One more night, then you were gone. He sets down his spoon. We thought you died, or made sure we'd think so. You lean forward slightly. The table is scratched and worn. Someone carved the initials A.B. into the wood, then scratched them out again. I don't remember that. You whisper. The man nods again, not surprised. Not everything wants to be remembered. You pull the folded note from your pocket, lay it between you. Was this you? He shakes his head. No. But I know who it was. You wait. She's still here, he says, his voice low. Upstairs. Room with the broken latch. You don't speak. You can't. She waited because you promised. Maybe not in words, but in the way you held her arm that night, in the way you looked back, just once, before disappearing into the storm. The fire pops across the room. A chair shifts. The barkeep is gone now. Just the 2 of you. And whatever ghosts you dragged in with you. You take a breath. The air feels heavier. I don't remember her. You will. He stands. Doesn't say goodbye. Just leaves the table and walks through a door behind the bar that wasn't there before. You stare at the note. You stay seated long enough to hear the upstairs floor creak again. And you wonder, what will you say if you go up? What will she say if you don't? You rise. The stairs wait, bent, uneven, each one holding the weight of 1,000 regrets. You climb them slowly, as if time has thickened around you. The hallway upstairs smells like old smoke and perfume faded into wood. Doors line each side, most shut, but one is slightly open. A soft light spills from below. You pause. Your hand hovers near the frame. The air is still. Listening. You knock. Once.
No answer. You stay seated long after the stranger disappears. The paper remains in your hand, creased from where your fingers gripped it too tightly. Its message is short, but it clings to your thoughts like wet fabric. You asked to be forgotten, but someone remembered. You read it again. The handwriting is unfamiliar, crooked, hurried, but not clumsy. You look at the barkeep. She's polishing the same mug over and over, like she's waiting for something to happen or trying to stop it from happening again. You open your mouth to speak, but nothing comes out. The words don't feel ready. Or maybe you're not. The tavern around you breathes like a tired animal. A man by the hearth is snoring again. The bard is gone. In his place is a sack, half open, with a lute string hanging out like a severed thread. The coals in the fire shift. You watch the glow deepen into red, like embers remembering something painful. You fold the paper and slide it into your pocket. You shouldn't keep it, but you do. Your mug waits. Steam rising gently, swirling in a way that suggests someone, somewhere, poured it for a reason. You sip. It's the same bitter warmth, earthy, sharp, almost medicinal, like someone once believed it could cure a heartbreak. You lean back. Let the sounds carry you. There's a soft thud upstairs, a bed frame moving, then silence again. Then footsteps descending the stairs, slow, deliberate. Whoever it is isn't rushing. They want to be heard. You don't turn around. You wait for the barkeep to react. She doesn't. The footsteps reach the bottom, pause, and then a man appears in the corner of your vision. You glance sideways. He's older, tall, with a patchy beard and a coat that hangs like it's too heavy for him now. He doesn't look at you, just makes his way to the back table, the one no one ever seems to sit at, not even drunks. He drops into the seat like he's been carrying something for years, then pulls out a pipe, taps it against the table 3 times, and waits. That's when the barkeep finally moves. She sets down her mug, wipes her hands on her apron, and walks to the man without a word. She places a bowl in front of him, steaming pottage, then turns back. Her eyes flick briefly toward you. It's not a look of warming. It's a look of memory. You feel it, something pulling at you, like a thread tucked too tightly into the hem of an old coat. You rise, slowly, Each joint complains. The air shifts with you. You walk toward the back table. You don't ask yourself why. The man watches your approach. His face doesn't change. Not welcoming, not unkind, just expectant, like he's seen this part of the story before. You sit. He gestures to your mug. Careful. First sip always tastes like lies. You offer the faintest shrug. Maybe that's why it's familiar. He nods, then scoops a spoonful of stew, blows on it, eats. The smell is oddly comforting. Root vegetables, barley, something sharp like onion or regret. He swallows, looks at you again. He say you were here before. You blink. Do they? They do. He taps the pipe again but doesn't light it. I remember, he says quietly. What do you remember? He leans back, the bench groans. Not everything, but enough. You came in from the South Road. You were soaked, wounded maybe, or just pretending to be. Sat near the fire, paid in foreign coin. You say nothing. You don't remember this version of yourself, but it doesn't feel wrong. They were looking for someone that night. 3 riders. Didn't say your name, but their silence said more than shouting would have. You look down at your hands. A small scar crosses your left thumb. You've never known how you got it. Or maybe you have. The man stirs his stew. You didn't speak much, but you listened, and someone trusted you with something. What kind of something? He pauses. The kind you hide in floorboards or under skin. You feel your heartbeat shift, slow and heavy. They left before dawn, but you stayed. One more night, then you were gone. He sets down his spoon. We thought you'd died, or made sure we'd think so. You lean forward slightly. The table is scratched and worn. Someone carved the initials AB into the wood, then scratched them out again. I don't remember that, you whisper. The man nods again, unsurprised. Not everything wants to be remembered. You pull the folded note from your pocket, lay it between you. Was this you? He shakes his head. No, but I know who it was. You wait. She's still here, he says, his voice low. Upstairs, room with the broken latch. You don't speak. You can't. She waited because you promised. Maybe not in words, but in the way you held her arm that night, in the way you looked back just once before disappearing into the storm. The fire pops across the room. A chair shifts. The bard is gone now, just the two of you, and whatever ghosts you dragged in with you. You take a breath. The air feels heavier. I don't remember her. You will. He stands, doesn't say goodbye, just leaves the table and walks through a door behind the bar that wasn't there before. You stare at the note. You stay seated, long enough to hear the upstairs floor creak again. And you wonder, what will you say if you go up? What will she say if you don't? You rise. The stairs wait, bent, uneven, each one holding the weight of 1,000 regrets. You climb them slowly, as if time has thickened around you. The air still, listening. You knock. Once. No answer. You push the door. It creaks open, and inside, a small room, one window, one bed, and a woman, seated at the edge, her hands in her lap. She doesn't look up, not yet, but she says, "I thought you'd come last night?" You try to answer, but your voice is still at the bottom of the stairs. She looks at you now, and everything you forgot.
You don't step forward at first. The moment is too full, too still. She sits there, in a dress that's more memory than fabric, her hands folded like she's holding something invisible, a secret, maybe, or a version of you she never let go of. You try to speak. Nothing comes. The fire downstairs crackles faintly, like a heartbeat far away. Then she tilts her head and her eyes meet yours. They're older than you remember, and kinder than you deserve. You came back wrong, she says. Not cruelly, just honestly. You nod. It's all you can offer. She stands slowly. Her movement is careful, not weak, the kind of grace that comes from carrying sorrow for too long without setting it down. "Do you remember my name?" she asks. You want to. You really do. Your lips part. I don't. She doesn't flinch. I know. You left it behind with everything else. She steps past you to the window. The light outside has turned silver. Not quite morning, not quite night. The kind of hour where nothing tells the truth. I kept your coat. Thought maybe it would still smell like you. It didn't. Smelled like rain and horses, but not you. You feel hollow. She turns around, eyes scanning your face. You were bleeding that night, but not from a wound. She walks to a chest near the bed, opens it, pulls out a small bundle, cloth-wrapped, tied in twine. She offers it. You hesitate, then take it. Inside, a ring. Small, plain, worn smooth from time and thumb. You know this ring. Somehow, impossibly. You turn it over in your palm. It fits like memory. Like apology. You gave it to me, she says softly. Said to keep it until it was safe again.
You look up. Was it? She laughs. Gently. No joy in it. No, but I kept it anyway. You sit on the edge of the bed, knees not quite touching hers. The room is silent. I'm sorry. You whisper. I know. You breathe slowly. I don't remember why I left. She looks at you. Eyes sharp now, but not angry. You were trying to protect something, or someone, maybe both. You stare at the ring. And did I? She doesn't answer right away. Then, not everything. The candle beside her flutters. A breeze. A sigh. You can't tell. I came back. You did. Too late? She doesn't blink. We'll see. You both sit there a while longer. The air between you is thick with everything unsaid, but something soft begins to settle, not peace. Not yet. But the start of remembering. A knock at the door. You both look up. A voice muffled. They're here. She stiffens. You do too. Who? But she's already moving. She lifts a loose floorboard beneath the rug. Inside, a pouch, a knife, and a folded letter sealed with wax. She presses the pouch into your hand. Same coin you left with. Use it better this time. The knife follows. Then the letter. Don't open it now. You nod. Below, the tavern grows louder. Boots on wood, voices raised, the smell of wet cloaks and tension. You both descend the stairs quietly. The barkeep is behind the bar again. Her face is a stone. Her eyes are not. At the door, 3 men, not locals, clean boots, serious eyes. One of them steps forward. Looking for someone? Always are, the barkeep says. He scans the room. His eyes land on you. Name? You answer without thinking. Not yours. Not the one you left behind. A new one. Old. true in a way that surprises you. The man studies you a moment longer, then nods. "Keep your nose clean," he says. They turn, leave. The door closes. Again. Silence. Then the barkeep exhales. She speaks to the woman beside you. "Better go." She nods, looks at you. "I'll see you again." A question, a promise. You answer. "You will." She slips out the back. No sound, no trace. You return to your bench by the fire. The ring in your palm, the letter in your coat, the question in your chest. Outside, the rain begins again. Inside, the tavern remembers. And you begin to. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
The letter stays in your coat, untouched. Its corners press into your chest with each breath, not enough to hurt, just enough to remind you it's there. You don't open it. Not yet. The fire crackles low beside you. Your bench welcomes your weight the way it always has. No judgment, just groaning a little louder than before. The tavern is quieter now. Most of the morning crowd has thinned. A few old men play dice in the corner, their laughter soft and broken, like a lullaby sung through cracked teeth. The barkeep hums again. A different tune this time. Less warning, more memory. You sip what's left of your drink. It's colder now, but no worse for it. Some things settle as they cool. The door creaks open behind you. You don't turn. The footsteps are slow, uncertain. Whoever it is doesn't want to be noticed. Then a whisper near your shoulder. "She said you'd come back." You glance up. A boy, thin, pale, barely old enough to have a shadow worth chasing. His eyes are wide, but not afraid, just watchful. He slides something onto the table, a token of bone, smoothed round, a single mark carved in the center, a symbol you recognize but can't place. "She told me to give this to you," he says. "Who?" He shrugs. "She never says names, only places." "What place?" He hesitates. Then, softly, "The cellar." The barkeep pauses mid-wipe. Her eyes flick toward you, then to the boy, then back to the bar, like nothing happened. You pocket the token. "What's in the cellar?" The boy steps back. "Not what. Who?" He leaves before you can ask more. You glance around. No one else seems to have noticed. You stand. Your legs are stiff from too much stillness. The door to the cellar is behind the bar, half hidden, chained, but the lock hangs open. You look to the barkeep. She nods. Once. She says, "Take a lantern." You do. The hinges whine as the door swings open. You descend slowly, the lantern casting long shadows ahead of you. The air cools with each step, thickening. Earth and ash and something older.
like forgotten prayers. At the bottom, the floor is packed dirt. Shelves line the walls, jars of pickled things, sacks of grain, bottles with no labels. But someone's there, sitting on an overturned crate, wrapped in a cloak the color of charcoal. You raise the lantern. It's not who you expect. Not her. A man, thin, with eyes that look past you like he's been waiting longer than time can measure. He gestures. You sit across from him. "You brought the token?" he asks, voice like rust and smoke. You nod. You place it on the crate between you. He studies it. Then you. "She said you wouldn't remember." She was right. He picks up the token, runs his thumb over it. You had a choice once. Stay or run. I ran. You did, and the price was silence. You lean forward. "What does that mean?" He looks at you, hard. "Her life, your memory, this place." He points upward. "This tavern? It stands because of what you gave up." You stare at him. He continues, calm. "She kept the letter. I kept the truth. And now," he places the token back in your hand. "Now you choose again." You say nothing. You feel the weight of the ring in one pocket, the letter in the other. "She's in danger again, isn't she?" He nods. "She will be, if you open the letter." Your breath catches. "Then why give it to me?" "Because it's time. Time to remember. Time to pay." You close your fist around the token. He stands, fades into shadow. You're alone again. The lantern flickers. You return upstairs. The tavern hasn't changed, not visibly, but the warmth feels thinner now, like something is watching. You sit at your bench, slowly. You take out the letter, break the seal. Inside, one line. The name you forgot is the one they fear. You close your eyes, and a whisper slips through your mind, a name. Yours. And with it, the memory of a fire, a blade, her voice calling you back through the smoke. You open your eyes. The tavern is silent. The barkeep is gone. The boy is gone. Only your breath and the fire remain. You stand, because something is coming, and you remember now. Not everything, but enough. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
You don't sleep that night. The tavern dims, then darkens, then drifts into a hush where even the floorboards stop creaking. But you stay awake, your fingers tracing the edge of the letter, the token still warm from your grip. The name, your name, echoes in your chest like a bell rung once and still vibrating. It doesn't sound heroic. It doesn't sound noble. It just sounds true. You whisper it once, softly, to the coals, to the shadows. The tavern doesn't answer, but it hears. You feel it in the walls, in the slant of the ceiling, in the weight of the air. This place remembers you now, not as a traveler, not as a stranger, as something older. You rise before dawn. The windows are still black. The street outside is still silent. Only the fire glows faintly,
reduced to its last loyal embers. The barkeep reappears without sound. She sets a mug down in front of you. Not ale this time. Something darker, stronger. A drink brewed for remembering. You nod. She nods. You read it, she says. Yes. You remember? Some. She pours one for herself. You drink. It burns differently this time. Not bitterness, not sorrow, but certainty. I need to find her, you say. She's already moving, the barkeep replies. She knew once you opened that letter, it would start again. You lean forward. What is it? The barkeep studies the flame for a long moment before answering. There's a man who wants what you protected. He always has. What did I protect? Not what. Who? You already know, but it still makes your stomach twist. She has it, the barkeep says. Still, even now. Where is she? She meets your eyes. She left you a map. You blink. In the token. You pull it from your pocket, turn it over. The back, smooth at first glance, now shows faint etchings. Not letters, lines, curves, a trail carved into bone. You hold it closer to the fire. It comes alive. A valley, a fork in a river, a mark, 3 stones in a circle. You remember standing there once. Cold wind, her voice, your vow. She's going back, you ask. She never left. Not really, says the barkeep. You rise, slowly. Your legs no longer ache. They remember the path. The barkeep watches you. You won't be the same when you return. I'm not the same now. You step outside. The morning is thick with fog, the kind that blurs the world into memory and rumor. Your boots sink slightly into the earth. You don't hesitate. You follow the map, not on paper, in your hands, in your feet, in the part of your heart that always knew this road was waiting. You pass the town's edge, past where fences stop and the trees begin to lean in. The sky lightens, but not by much, just enough to show you're not alone on the path. You hear footsteps behind you. You turn. Nothing. You keep walking. Birds stir in the trees, their songs clipped short. The fog parts in narrow lines, showing just enough to walk, not enough to run. Then, a clearing. 3 stones in a circle, exactly as the token promised. You step inside. And she's there, standing at the far side, her cloak pulled tight, her hair tied back, a satchel at her hip. She turns when she hears your steps. You took long enough, she says. You smile barely. I had to find myself first. She walks toward you. You meet halfway. Her hand touches your chest, over the letter, over your name. You remember? Yes. And the rest? You shake your head. Not yet. That's fine, she says. We'll need time. You glance around. This place, it's the beginning, she says. You kneel, touch the earth. It's been burned here, a long time ago. You look up at her. They came here once. They'll come again. She opens her satchel. Inside, a book, bound in leather, heavy with dust. She hands it to you. You open the first page. It's your handwriting, your name, your story, unfinished. We wrote it together, she says. Then why don't I remember? She looks toward the horizon. Because we agreed if they found you, they'd find us both. You left your memories behind to protect mine. You look at the book. The ink is faded, but it's still there, waiting. You close it gently. We have to finish it. She nods. And keep them from rewriting it. A sound in the distance. Hooves. Voices. Steel on leather. They're coming, she whispers. You stand beside her. No sword, no shield. Only your name. Only the truth. And for now, that's enough.
You sit with the book open between you, pages spread like the wings of a bird that has just remembered how to fly. The wind stirs, not harsh, just enough to lift the corners of the paper, as if the story wants to keep going without you. But you stay there a while. She traces a name on the page with her finger. Yours. Then, hers. Side by side. Not as they were given, but as you chose them. The sky above the trees begins to brighten. Not quite day, not yet. Just the first shy hints of light brushing against the mist. You turn the next page. The ink is darker here, more recent, and the writing, not yours, not hers. A third hand, messier, angrier. You scan the words. The story will be rewritten. The truth is not fixed. What was once memory can be molded, reshaped, silenced. You look at her. They've been changing it, you whisper. She nods. Every time someone forgot your name, they added a lie in its place. Your chest tightens. How much of this is still true? She doesn't answer. Not directly. Instead, she flips to the back of the book, the last written page. It's blank. But faint marks press into the paper, words that were once there now scraped away. They're trying to erase the ending, she says. You close the book gently. Then we write a new one. She stands, you follow. The clearing has changed. You feel it in your spine, like the trees are holding their breath, like the ground is listening. They'll come again, she says. They always do when the truth gets too close to daylight. We can't fight them. No, she agrees. But we can show them we're not afraid anymore. You walk together down the narrow path that leads out of the clearing. The mist follows you like a curtain drawing back. You walk in silence, not because there's nothing to say, but because silence is its own kind of remembering. Then, from behind you, footsteps. You turn. No one. She frowns. Did you hear? Yes. Another step. This time to the side. You step back. The trees shift, and then a figure steps out from the mist. Not cloaked, not armed. A boy. The same boy from the tavern, but younger or older. His face is the same, but his eyes, different. Like he knows too much and not enough all at once. He holds something in both hands. A wooden box. He doesn't speak, just offers it to you. You take it, slowly. He nods once, then disappears into the fog. You stare at the box. It's carved with symbols you almost recognize, a language buried deep in the back of your mind. You lift the lid. Inside, a mirror. Small, cracked. You see your face, and behind it, flickers, images. A battlefield, a hand held too long, a door closed forever. Her face, your voice, a promise.
I think it's showing you what was taken, she says. You watch the fragments dance across the glass. It hurts, but not in the way wounds do. It hurts like remembering a song and realizing you forgot how it ends. You close the box. We need to go back. To where? To where the story began. You nod, not because you're ready, but because there's nowhere left to hide. You both step forward, leaving the clearing, the circle of stones shrinking behind you. The path ahead bends slightly left toward the river. You know it now. You know where it leads. To the first place they found you. To the last place you were whole. The book in your pack, the mirror in your hand, her steps beside yours. You don't know what waits, but you're not walking into it empty.
The river sounds the same. Even after all this time, after all the forgetting, the running, the nights in silence, the water still sings its old, slow song. You hear it before you see it. That low, patient murmur, like breath passing between stories. You follow it through the trees, boots soft on moss and earth, until the path opens wide and the river appears. It winds like memory, broad, steady, too deep to guess at. You stop at the edge. She steps beside you. "This is where you made the vow," she says. You nod. You don't remember the vow exactly, but you remember how it felt. Heavy, sacred, chosen. She kneels, runs her fingers through the grass. There, beneath a flat stone, something waits. You help her lift it. Beneath the stone, another book, older, smaller, bound in cloth instead of leather. She opens it gently. No names inside, just symbols, marks, some drawn in haste, some with care, maps that make no sense, lines crossed, pages torn, the language of those who were never meant to speak openly. You remembered this book. You carried it once, not for knowledge, but for protection. She flips to the last page. There, scratched deep into the paper, a phrase. The truth survives in silence, but it starves without voice. You look up. The water flows by, unbothered. "We buried it here," you say. She nods. "When they started burning the others." You glance back at the trees. "You think they followed us?" "No," she says. "They're already here." You don't ask how she knows. You feel it too. The wind changes. The shadows deepen. The birds fall silent. And then a voice, soft, patient. "You've done well to come this far." You turn. The man from before stands near the trees, not cloaked this time, not hidden, just there, like he never left. He walks slowly toward you. She closes the book. He stops a few steps away. "You think writing it again will save you?" "No," you say, "but it might save others." He tilts his head. "From what?" "From you." His eyes narrow. "We kept the peace." "No," she says. "You kept the silence." He sighs. "You can still walk away. Forget again. Start over." You shake your head. "We already did that." You reach into your coat. Take out the cracked mirror. Hold it up. He flinches, just slightly. "You remember what we looked like before," you say. His voice lowers. "You don't understand what's at stake." "We do," she replies.
That's why we came. The river behind you flows louder now, like it's listening more closely. He reaches into his coat. You tense, but he doesn't draw a blade. Instead, he holds out another mirror, whole, untouched. This is what you gave up. You take it. Look into it. The reflection doesn't change. Still you. Still her beside you. But the mirror feels heavier than it should. You hand it back. No, you say. That's what you wanted me to be. You turn to her. Let's finish it. She opens the book again. This time you take the pen. The man doesn't stop you. He just watches as you write. Your name, her name, the truth between. You don't write it to be remembered. You write it because silence is no longer enough. When you finish, the wind shifts. The man is gone. The trees release their breath. The river softens. She looks at you. It's done? You shake your head. It's begun. You bury the mirror beneath the stone, wrap the book in cloth, and you both walk away, not into safety, but into something better. A world that remembers.
The world doesn't change all at once. There's no thunderclap, no great tearing of the sky. The wind doesn't rise in protest, and the trees don't lean to whisper approval. But something has shifted. Quiet, deep, and certain. You feel it in your ribs as you walk. Like a weight has been lifted, but something older has been placed in its stead. Responsibility. The book is safe now. Wrapped, hidden, the memory restored. Not just for you and her, but for whoever finds it next. She walks beside you, not speaking. She doesn't need to. There's a stillness between you now. Not the stillness of silence, but of understanding. A shared burden. A shared beginning. You reach the edge of the old path where forest meets field. Beyond, the village stirs, small figures moving between barns, the sound of chickens, buckets, soft voices trying not to wake the day. It's the same village you passed through all those years ago. Only now, you remember. You remember the woman who stitched your wound without asking your name. The boy who handed you a crust of bread without asking for coin. The old man who pointed you toward the road and said only, "Whatever you're running from, make sure it's worth the distance." They saw you. Before you forgot. Before you chose forgetting. You stop at the tree line. "We don't have to go back," she says. You glance at her. "But we do," you say. "They deserve the truth." She nods once. You take the path down the hill. The village unfolds below you, smoke curling gently from rooftops. A dog barks. A bell rings faintly in the distance. Not alarm, just a call to bread or butter or something far more human than fear. The people see you before you reach the square. Some pause, watch. Some don't. An older woman steps forward, her hands on her hips, her eyes narrowed, then softening. She says, "I knew you'd return." You search her face. "Do I know you?" She says, "You used to." That was enough. She beckons you both in. No fuss, no questions, just tea and a fire and a place to sit. Inside the cottage, it's warm, humble. The walls are lined with simple things: worn tools, carved spoons, herbs strung like prayers. You sip the tea. She studies your face. "You found it, didn't you?" You nod. "The name? The book? All of it." She leans back. "Then it'll begin again." You look at her. Begin what? She smiles, slow and tired. Stories don't just remember, they ripple. You don't understand at first, but when you step back outside, the air feels different. People whisper as you pass, not in fear, but in recognition. Somewhere, a bard plucks a string, softly, testing a melody that hasn't been played in years. Children follow your steps like shadows. A man with ink-stained fingers sketches your coat into the corner of a worn page. A girl repeats your name under her breath, like trying on a word too old for her mouth. She touches your shoulder. They're remembering, she says. And you realize this is the consequence. Not a battle, not a fire, but a quiet uprising. Of memory, of names long lost, of stories told properly, whole, not edited. And suddenly it's not about you anymore. It's about all the others who were erased, all the truths buried under safer versions. You turn toward her. What now? She points, not behind, but ahead, to a road you've never walked before, a place not yet marked on any page. She says, "We go where the silence still lives." You nod and step forward.
You don't run. Not this time. The sound of horses grows louder, but your feet stay planted. Beside her, where you were always meant to stand. The book is tucked under your arm, your name etched inside. No longer forgotten, no longer borrowed. Yours. She doesn't speak, neither do you. The trees bend in the wind, but the clearing stays still, as if holding its breath. You hear voices, not angry, not hurried, just careful. The kind of voices that know they're being listened to. Then a flicker of movement through the fog, a figure on horseback, another behind. Shapes more shadow than men. They stop at the tree line. 3 of them. Their cloaks bear no symbols. Their faces are mostly hidden, but the air around them tightens like a knot. One dismounts, steps forward. Not young, not old. The kind of man who has survived too many winters and buried too many maims. He looks at you. Then her. Then the book. You brought it, he says. Your grip tightens. You were never meant to have it, neither of you. She steps slightly ahead of you, just enough to block the book from his view. We didn't take it. It was ours to begin with. The man tilts his head. You don't even know what's inside. You meet his gaze. We're learning. He smiles, faintly. I remember you, he says, to you. The runaway, the memoryless, the one who asked to be erased. Your throat tightens. He steps closer. You begged us, he says, to forget who you were, to bury it. And now here you are, digging it back up. You hold your ground. I remember enough. The man sighs. You don't understand what that book holds. Then tell us. He doesn't. Instead, he nods toward the others. One reaches into his cloak, pulls something out, small, round, and wrapped in cloth. He takes it, unwraps it. A ring. Yours. The one you gave away. The one she returned to you. Your eyes flick to your pocket. You reach in. It's gone. You look at her. She's as surprised as you are. You gave it to her once, but it was never yours to give. He tosses the ring into the dirt. Everything has a cost, even forgetting. You kneel. Pick up the ring. Wipe the mud from its edge. It feels colder now. He turns to leave. But you have chosen, he says over his shoulder, so we will too. The three figures vanish into the trees. The silence returns, but it doesn't feel safe anymore. She kneels beside you. Is it true? She asks. Does it matter? She touches your arm. Not to me. You both sit in the circle of stones, the ring between you, the book unopened, the air thick with meaning. What happens now? You ask. She looks at the horizon. They'll come back, but they won't ask next time. You nod. We need to be ready. She picks up the book, hands it to you. Then let's start reading. You open the second page. Your handwriting again. But this time, her name is there too, and a phrase written in the margin. Only the forgotten can remember what matters. The fire in your chest steadies. You're not just someone who left. You're someone who returned. And whatever comes next, you won't face it alone. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
The road ahead feels untouched, not by weather. The ruts are there, the mud, the flattened grass, but untouched by names. There are no stories here. Not yet. Only rumor. Only the kind of silence that grows too comfortably in places no one questions anymore. You and she walk side by side. No map this time. Only direction. West. To where the old border used to be. Where the records end. Where even the empire stopped carving stones. The villagers said nothing more as you left, but their eyes followed, and you felt it in their silence. Hope. Not loud, but enough. The morning wears on gently. The clouds above drift like thoughts trying to form. The sun doesn't break through. It lingers, pale and unsure behind a veil of gray. You pass a row of dead trees, bark stripped, roots half exposed, each one marked with a single slash. Not made by nature, made by someone who wanted to forget what grew here. She stops at one, runs her hand along the groove. This is where they started, she says. You look around. There's nothing but fields. No buildings, no ruins. They cleared it all when the stories began to bite back. You kneel, run your fingers through the soil. Beneath the surface, you find the remains of charred wood. Small, fragile. A beam, a nail. Maybe a door frame. Maybe a home. You both kneel there for a while, not to mourn, but to witness. Then you rise and keep walking. You reach the crest of a hill just as the light begins to shift, and there, below, lies the forgotten town. No name on any map, no sign, just shapes, broken walls, collapsed roofs, a steeple leaning against time, the bones of a place that once mattered, and still does.
You walk into it slowly. Your boots crunch over shattered tile and silence. Birds watch from hollow rafters. You step through what might have been a square. A stone well still stands, its bucket missing. Moss clings to its rim like it's trying to hold the place together. She crouches near a slab of carved stone, brushes away the leaves. You lean closer. A name. Faint. Nearly gone. But not quite. Do you recognize it? She asks. You nod slowly. They taught me to forget it. She stands. And now? You touch the name again. I'll remember it for them. You both walk deeper into the ruin. Each corner holds something. A dent in the ground where a forge once stood. A cracked bowl beneath a collapsed bean. Half a doll's face pressed into mud. She finds another piece of cloth, a patch from a uniform, the same color as the ones who came to silence. She tosses it into the wind. It flutters, then falls. I think, she says, this is where they first tried to erase you. You place a hand on the nearest wall, jagged, scorched. The stone is warm. It remembers. You kneel, open the newer book, the one you carry now, and you begin to write. This place. Its name. What they did. What was lost. What was never truly gone. She sits beside you, adds a line in her own hand. A shared story. Not polished. Not finished. Just true. The wind picks up again, but it doesn't carry dust this time. It carries echoes. Footsteps. Not your own. Not hers. You both freeze. From the edge of the ruin, a figure steps out. Not cloaked, not threatening. An old man. Staff in one hand, a sack in the other. He sees you and smiles. I thought I was the last one, he says. You stand. Do you remember this place? He nods. I was born here when it had a name. You hand him the book. He doesn't open it. He simply holds it. And something changes in his face. Relief, maybe, or the quiet peace of being believed. Others begin to appear, one by one. Not soldiers, not enemies. Just witnesses. People like you. People who remember just enough. You and she step back. Let them gather. Let them touch what was once forbidden to speak of. The ruin isn't ruined anymore. It's alive again. And the story, the true story, is no longer yours alone. You look at her. She looks at you. We did it, you whisper. No, she says. We started it. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
They don't ask your names. The ones who gather in the ruined town, the witnesses, the wanderers, the quiet ones who survived forgetting, they don't question who you are. They look at you with something deeper than recognition, something softer. Like they've carried a piece of your story in their own silence for years, and seeing you now is like finding the last line of a song they'd been humming without words. You and she sit by the well, not as leaders, not as heroes, just as the first to remember out loud. Someone has built a fire, not large, not loud, just enough to keep the cold at the edge of the square. The townspeople bring offerings,
bits of bread, cloth, pieces of things once meaningful, now meant to be shared. One woman unrolls a bundle of faded drawings, faces, houses, a map drawn from memory. You kneel beside her. "This one," she says, pointing, "was the bakery. He had a scar here." She taps her own chin. "Told everyone it was from battle, but it was just a bread knife." She laughs, quietly, then wipes her eyes. Another man places a carved figure at the edge of the firelight. A horse, missing one leg. He says nothing, just nods at you. This isn't a ceremony. It's something older, something humbler, a remembering. And slowly, the town breathes again. Children gather near the well. One of them, a girl no older than 10, asks if she can draw your face. You say yes. She squints, tongue between her teeth, and sketches on the back of an old ledger. It doesn't look like you, but somehow it feels right. By nightfall, the square is full, not of noise, but of presence. Lamps hang from broken beams. A pot simmers on a fire pit someone dug where the forge once stood. The well has been cleared. The town isn't whole, but it's awake. You sit beside her on the steps of what was once the chapel. The roof's long gone. The stars shine straight down through the rafters. You both eat in silence for a while. Then she leans her head against your shoulder. "You know," she murmurs, "they'll try again." You nod. "I know. They'll say it's wrong, that it didn't happen like this." "They already have." She takes your hand. "But this time, we're not the only ones who remember." You look out over the square, the faces lit by firelight, the laughter, the stories. No banners, no speeches, just memory, stitched back together, one thread at a time. You pull the book from your pack. It's heavier now, fuller. You open to a blank page. Write a date, a place, a name. One of theirs, not yours. Then another. Then another. She adds one too. Each line is a person. Each line, a promise. You write long after the fire dies down. And when you finally sleep, there on the chapel steps, under the stars, surrounded by those who were never meant to survive the forgetting, you dream not of what was taken, but of what remains. Of names whispered, not shouted. Of stories told, slowly, around quiet fires. Of history remembered not as legend, but as life. And for the first time in a long time, the silence feels warm. Not empty, not erased, just resting. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
Morning finds you in the same place you fell asleep, beneath a broken chapel ceiling, the stone warm with early sun, your head tilted toward a sky that seems clearer than it did yesterday. You blink, stretch. She's still beside you, arms folded across her chest, her breathing slow, steady. For a moment, the world is quiet in the way only peace can be. Not silence, not absence, just enough space to feel your own heartbeat without urgency. Then you hear footsteps, not hurried, not afraid, purposeful. You rise gently. She stirs, eyes opening with that kind of sleep that knows it didn't last long enough. A young man approaches, no older than 20. His clothes are simple, dusty, his hair pulled back with a frayed tie. He carries a stack of papers, bundled together with a strip of leather. He stops just shy of the chapel steps and says, "I wrote it down." You blink. Wrote what? "All of it," he says. "Everything I heard last night. Everything they told me." He holds the bundle out to you. "Names, places, pieces. I don't want them to disappear again." You take it from his hands. It's heavier than it looks. You flip through the top pages. The writing is messy, sometimes smudged, but it's earnest, filled with care. No drama, just detail. A life saved during a storm. A boy who vanished one night but left his whistle behind. A woman who baked bread until her oven cracked, but still showed up with burnt crusts for children who never thanked her. You close the bundle. Look at him. "What made you start?" He shrugs. "I don't know. I guess I was just tired of not knowing anything real." You offer the faintest smile. He nods once and walks away. You look at her. She smiles too. "Told you it would ripple." You stand, walk through the village again. New structures are rising, not buildings, not yet, but shapes, frameworks, lines in the dirt where walls will go, a circle of stones where stories will be told. People have begun marking trees with red thread, a sign, not of danger, but memory. You find the older man from yesterday, the one with the staff and the mirror of his own. He's sitting in the sun, whittling a stick down to a point. He looks up. "They're rebuilding," he says, "not because they want to go back, but because they want to remember forward." You sit beside him. "They'll come again," you say quietly. "The ones who tried to erase all this." He nods. "Yes, but now they'll have to answer to more than ghosts." You both look out at the village. Children running between beams, women shaping clay, a fire pit being dug with care. "I used to think stories were only for telling. Now I know better." "They're for keeping," you murmur. He nods. "And for passing on." You glance at the bundle in your hands. "We'll need more than one book." "You'll have more." You and she spend the next few days gathering, not supplies, stories. You move from house to house, some rebuilt, some only outlined in stone. People greet you with pieces, letters found in shoes, buttons from soldiers' coats, names etched into combs and knives and bowls. You record them all, not perfectly, but honestly. She draws carefully beside you, not grand portraits, just gestures, symbols, impressions of hands and faces and broken fences long gone. Together, you begin a record that cannot be rewritten because it lives in too many hearts now to be erased. One evening, you sit beneath the old tree at the village edge. She leans her head on your shoulder. "Do you think they'll forget again?" she asks. "Maybe," you say.
That's what people do. But this time they'll have something to return to. She smiles. That's enough, she says. And it is. Because even if the silence comes again, there will be names carved in beams, symbols drawn on stones, books beneath beds, and voices, quiet, tired, but brave, who will say, "No, we were here."
The season begins to shift. You notice it first in the mornings, not colder exactly, but different. The air carries a sharper scent, like distant rain or turned soil. Leaves curl at the edges. Light falls at a gentler angle, brushing across faces like the soft hand of something old and patient. The village feels it too. You see it in how the people move, slower, more deliberate, as if they're holding on to each moment a little longer. There's talk of storing grain, patching roofs, stitching heavier cloaks, but beneath all that, something else stirs. A readiness. Not for winter, for truth. One morning, a cart arrives at the edge of the square. The driver, a woman with ink-stained sleeves and eyes like cold fire, climbs down and holds up a folded paper. She doesn't speak, just tacks it to the post in front of the well. People gather. You join them. At the top of the page, a symbol. The mark of the archives, the ruling historians who once rewrote your name out of the world. Beneath it, bold words, unauthorized historical reconstruction detected. And beneath that, those in possession of non-sanctioned texts must present themselves within 6 days. Failure to comply will be met with correction. Correction. Such a tidy word for such brutal work. No one speaks. Then a child steps forward, the same one who drew your face that night under the chapel roof. She stares at the notice, unblinking. "They're scared," she says quietly. She's right. Not just the archives, the people. All of you. Because memory has begun to bloom, and now they've come to cut it down. You and she return to your corner of the village. The books are still safe, hidden in cellars, between walls, buried beneath the chapel floor. You light a lamp, sit across from her. "They'll come soon," she says. "Yes." "Do we leave?" You shake your head. "No, not this time." You take the bundle of writings, the boy's notes, the stories you gathered, her drawings, and begin copying them by hand, one by one. Each name, each line, each quiet truth. You fill new pages, wrap them, pass them into trusted hands. No resistance, no speeches, just quiet preparation. On the 4th day, the first horse arrives. A man dismounts. His armor bears no symbol, just polished steel and the cold clarity of someone who believes in rules more than people. He doesn't speak to anyone directly. He simply walks the square, observes, takes note, leaves. The tension lingers long after. That night, a small group gathers in the half-rebuilt tavern. You stand before them, not to command, just to say one thing. We don't fight them with fire. You hold up a book. We fight with memory. They nod. Not all, but enough. By the 6th day, you've made 8 copies, each one different. Different hands, different margins, different ink. But the stories remain. She places the 8th in a satchel and tucks it beneath the chapel floor, beneath a loose tile only a child would think to check. And just before dawn, she looks at you. What if they burn it all again? You smile. Faintly. Then we start over. And you mean it. Because this time you're not alone. This time the truth lives in more than ink. It lives in voices, in eyes, in the hands that rebuilt a town, not to restore its walls, but to protect its name. And that name, it won't be forgotten again. Not easily. Not quietly. Not ever.
They arrive at dawn. Not as riders this time, but as a procession. 7 of them, all dressed the same. Gray cloaks, quiet boots, faces calm as clean paper. No flags, no fanfare. Just presence. They don't speak as they move through the village. They don't knock. They walk. Observe. Mark doors with chalk. Some doors they pass by. Some they mark. Yours too. A white line, straight and silent. You stand just inside, beside her, watching. She doesn't blink as the chalk touches wood. She only says, "It begins." You nod. Behind you, the satchels are ready. Books sealed in cloth, slipped into sacks of grain, hidden inside bundles of dried herbs and tools. Not hidden out of fear, hidden out of patience. This isn't rebellion, it's remembrance. And remembrance needs time to root. Outside, the townspeople pretend not to look, but they see everything. A cart shifts direction. A child ducks into a stable. The old man with the staff lights a lantern and leaves it on his doorstep, a silent signal. By midday, the 7 have stopped moving. They sit in the square. One unrolls a parchment and begins writing. Another sharpens a quill. They speak in low tones. They don't ask questions. Not yet. You gather the others that evening. Not in secret, in the chapel. The roof is still open to the stars. The benches are crude, the walls unfinished. But they come. The woman who stitched blankets from old flags. The man who writes names on scraps of bark. The girl who keeps her drawings folded under her mattress. And you. And her. You stand together before them. You hold one of the books. Not high, not for show. Just open. We are not here to fight, you say. You pause. Let that truth breathe. We are here to protect. What they called erasure, we call memory. A murmur rises. A shifting of weight. She steps forward. This isn't about them, she says. It's about us, about not leaving the past in their hands. No one cheers. No one claps. That's not how remembering works. It settles. Deep. Quiet. You leave the chapel together. Walk past the watchers in the square. The 7 look up as you pass, but they don't stop you. Not yet. The next morning, they speak. 3 sit at the well. The others watch from shade. The one in the middle, a woman, raises her voice just enough. "We are not your enemy," she says. The villagers pause. "We are here to preserve order, to ensure that what is written reflects what is true." You step forward, book in hand. "And who decides what's true?" She meets your eyes. No anger there, just something colder. "Truth is what is remembered the same by all." You shake your head. "Then it was never truth to begin with." She closes her scroll. "You are in violation." You nod. "I know." You open the book. Begin to read. Not loudly, not defiantly, just clearly. A name. A birth. A death. A moment, one line that they tried to erase. She raises her hand. Two of the others step forward. And then, behind you, someone else speaks. Another name. A memory. Then another. And another until the square is filled with quiet voices. Each one telling something small, something real. No shouting. No war cry. Just truth, stacked, layered, unstoppable. The watchers freeze. They were trained for resistance, not for remembering. You don't stop. You keep reading. And they, for now, do nothing. Because this is not a fight they understand. You and she stand together, your words weaving back what they spent years unraveling. And somewhere in the crowd, the child who drew your face is sketching again. Only this time, she draws the square, the books, the voices, and writes one word at the bottom. We stayed.
It starts with a letter. Not official, not sealed in wax, no insignia. Just folded parchment, worn at the creases, the edges touched by nervous hands. It's left on your doorstep before dawn. You find it just as the light begins to spill over the rooftops. You read it alone, standing in the quiet. They are speaking in the next town, about you, about the book. Some say it's dangerous. Others say it's salvation. Either way, they're listening. You fold the letter, tuck it into your coat. She joins you moments later, eyes still heavy with sleep, hair pulled back with a piece of twine. She doesn't ask what the letter says. She already knows. "They're spreading it," she says. You nod. "We didn't plan for this." "No, but we prepared for it." You spend the morning walking the edge of the village. The 7 watchers are still here, still silent. But their posture has changed. Not looser, tighter. They sense it too. Control, slipping. Not violently, just undeniably. You gather the others again. No need to call them. They're already waiting. The old man is there. The ink-stained boy. The baker's daughter. The children with ribbon-marked sleeves. You sit in the center of the square. They form a ring around you. You hold the book on your lap, unopened. This is no longer our story alone. It belongs to others now. She sits beside you, notebook in hand, pencil between her fingers. She will send it. Pages, not the whole book, just enough to spark. Enough to stir sleeping minds. They nod, not with fear, with resolve. You begin copying again. Not just facts, moments. A woman naming her lost child out loud for the first time in 10 years. A burned name carved back into a bench. A song remembered from before the village burned. You write them out. She draws. The children fold them, and by nightfall the first bundle is tied with cord and passed to a traveler headed east. By morning, it's gone. 3 days later, a bird arrives, a scrap of ribbon tied to its leg. You unroll it. Only 4 words. They read it aloud. You show it to her. She closes her eyes. The circle widens. More letters come, more pages go. Stories take root in places you've never seen, in mouths you'll never know. You hear of a village rebuilding a burned school, naming its rooms after those forgotten. Of a boy standing in a market, reading a page you wrote to anyone who would listen. Of an old woman telling a name to her granddaughter and crying because it felt like coming home. Even the 7 watchers begin to falter. 2 leave quietly. 1 stands in the chapel during evening meal and asks to hear more. And slowly, impossibly, even those who came to erase begin to remember. Not all, but enough. One night you sit beside her on the chapel steps, watching stars drift like quiet thoughts across the sky. She speaks softly, not looking at you. Do you think they'll try to end it? You know who she means. The archives, those who built their empire on silence. You nod. Yes, but not tonight. She leans against your shoulder. I hope it's not a war. So do I. You hold the latest letter in your hand. Its last line reads, "We are waiting. Speak again. We are listening." You close your eyes. Let the sound of breathing fill the quiet. And you think, they tried to erase you, but now your voice lives in others, scattered, fragile, and strong. You're no longer a secret. You're a chorus, a story written in many hands. And though darkness will return, as it always does, this time it will not find the world unguarded, not silent, not still. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
It begins to rain. Not a storm, just a steady, quiet kind of rain. The kind that soaks without drama. The kind that the earth accepts without resistance. You and she sit beneath the overhang of the old chapel roof, what's left of it. The rain drips through cracks, lands softly in the dirt around you. It feels like waiting. The messages haven't come in 2 days. No birds. No travelers, no scraps of ribbon, no folded letters slipped under doors. Silence. Not the comforting kind you've grown used to, not the silence of memory or story. The other kind. She watches the rain run down the stone beside her. "They've started intercepting them," she says quietly. You nod. You knew at the moment the birds didn't return. "They're tightening the lines," you say, "trying to choke the story at the edge." She reaches into her satchel, pulls out a page, one of the earliest copies, smudged at the corners, folded too many times, still legible. "We need another way." That evening, the villagers gather in the tavern. No fire in the hearth, too risky, just lanterns placed at the center of each table. Soft, flickering circles of light like small beacons in a world going dim. You speak, not from a raised step or platform, from your seat, calm, even. They've stopped the birds and the careers. Murmurs ripple through the room. But not the people. You set a satchel on the table. Open it. Inside, bundles of pages, sealed with wax and thread. You hold one up. These are going with feet now, not wings. People, not messengers. She steps beside you, hands folded. They'll try to stop them, someone says. Yes, you reply. But it's harder to stop 100 mouths than one letter. The boy who first brought you notes steps forward. I'll take one, he says. His hands tremble, but his eyes don't waver. A woman in the corner, quiet until now, nods. Me too. Then another, and another. You don't ask them to memorize the words. You don't tell them to be brave. You only hand them the truth, wrapped in cloth, written with care. That night, 12 villagers leave quietly. 12 stories in their packs. 12 names, no longer waiting for permission to exist. And in the morning, another knock. But not from the archives. From a stranger. Wet from travel, mud on their boots, a pin on their coat. Not a symbol of power, but of memory. A thread tied around a feather. You recognize it. You've drawn it. One of yours. They enter the chapel without speaking. Kneel before the altar that never held prayers, only pages. And place a new book on the stone. Not yours, someone else's. Written elsewhere, by other hands. You open it. The first line. They tried to erase her too. You look at her. She smiles. Small. Tired. It's working, she says. It's spreading. You sit beside her and begin to read. The story isn't familiar, but the feeling is. Names spoken in trust, pain remembered with care, places marked not with borders, but with footprints. By nightfall, 3 more arrive, each with their own version. Not copies, new truths. Same war, different wounds. And you understand. This was never about one town. Never about one forgotten name. It was always about all of them. All of you. One voice becoming hundreds. A story becoming a wave. The kind no wall can stop. No archive can contain. And you smile. Because the silence has never felt so fragile. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
They come not to hide, but to learn. One by one, and then in groups, the strangers arrive. Not soldiers, not spies, messengers, midwives, bakers, runaways, healers, people with no titles, no power, only stories they never knew how to tell, now seeking someone who will help them tell them right. The village welcomes them with a kind of quiet hospitality. No questions asked. Just beds made from straw, bowls filled with stew, and space by the fire for the ones who don't know where to begin. You and she sit with them each night, the chapel now turned into a room of voices. Some soft, some broken, some tangled in shame. You listen to every one. Not to correct, not to fix, only to honor. That's all most people ever wanted. To not be erased.
A boy arrives with a voice no louder than a whisper. He carries a satchel stitched with 5 red marks, each one for a village that no longer exists. He doesn't ask to speak. He asks to listen. You hand him a book and a pen. If you can't speak it, you say, write it. And so he does. At night, you find him by candlelight, words crawling across the page like they're afraid to be seen. But still, they come. And in the morning he reads, and the room goes still. Because the truth doesn't have to be loud to survive. It just has to be heard. They come with questions, too. How do you protect a story from being stolen? How do you keep a name alive when the ones who remember it are gone? How do you know what's worth writing? You tell them what you've learned. You protect stories by sharing them. You keep names alive by speaking them when no one else will. And everything is worth writing, especially the parts they told you were too small to matter. You teach them how to fold pages into corners of jackets, how to stitch stories into hems, how to disguise memory as song. The children catch on fastest. They invent new games, memory games they call them. But they're more than that. They're preservation. Each rhyme, each chant, each silly dance step is a vessel. You watch them and realize something important. This was never just about remembering the past. It's about building something that can't be burned. Not anymore. One morning, a traveler arrives from the coast. She carries no books, only a tattoo on her arm, your symbol, hand-drawn. She says nothing when she enters the chapel, just kneels, unrolls a piece of parchment. The lines are shaky, but you recognize them instantly. Your story, one of your first, copied, passed, kept alive. You feel something catch in your throat. She looks up. "I never thought I'd find the source," she says. You smile gently. "We're not the source." She tilts her head. "Then who is?" You gesture to the room, to all of them. She stays 3 nights. By the 4th, she's teaching others to write, to bind, to tell a truth so well it cannot be changed, only remembered. And still the archives wait, watching. Their presence now reduced to a shadow in the distance, a threat, but no longer a certainty. Because the louder your silence becomes, the stronger your stories grow, the harder it becomes for them to move without breaking the world they tried to keep still. You wonder if they're afraid. And then you realize, it doesn't matter. You aren't building this village to defy them. You're building it so no one needs to be afraid again. And when you walk the square that evening, seeing candles in windows, pages drying on clotheslines, stories recited around cook-fires and whispered in lullabies, you understand what she meant when she said, "We started it." Because now, it's more than a story. It's a movement. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
The wind has changed again. You feel it in the way the grass leans, in how the shutters creak, not from age, but from anticipation. There's something on the horizon. Not danger, not quite. Something else. An ending, maybe, or something that wants to be one. The village still wakes as it always has. Firewood is chopped. Loaves are set to rise. Children run with ink-stained fingers and ribbons tied to their wrists like miniature banners. But beneath it all,
There's a stillness, as if the land is holding its breath, waiting. You and she sit by the well in the square. The stones have been scrubbed clean. New names are etched into them now. Not carved deep, not in defiance, but gently, as if to say, we were here, and that's enough. You've written every day for weeks, not to explain, not to prove, only to preserve. The final pages of the book, the one that started it all, are nearly full. You saved the last few, not for your name, but for theirs, the ones who came and stayed and carried the story forward. She leans against your shoulder. You feel it? She asks. You nod. It's almost time. For them to come? For us to let go. She doesn't answer at first. Then, that was always the point, wasn't it? Not to hold it forever, just long enough. A child runs by, laughing, their coat flaring behind them, stitched with names written in gold thread. Not for display, just for safekeeping. You smile. I think it's safe now. That night, the fires burn a little brighter, not for warmth, for gathering. The chapel is full. No books tonight. No speeches. Just people. The first boy who wrote sits near the front. He's older now, not by much, but his hands are steady, his eyes sure. The woman from the coast reads a story she wrote herself, one that began with your words, but ends in her own. The girl who drew you all those nights ago stands tall, a ribbon tucked behind her ear. She sings a name you once forgot. She doesn't forget it. You and she sit near the back, listening. Not leading, just listening. And as the voices rise, one by one, not with noise, but with memory, you realize the work is done. Not because there's nothing left to say, but because they no longer need you to say it. You step outside before the gathering ends. She follows. You walk the edge of the square, past the wall where names are still being added, past the stable where books are now wrapped in oilcloth and strapped to packs like rations, past the tree where the first traveler sat holding the first folded page. And there, in the soft dark, the archives. Not an army, just one figure. No blade, no scroll, only a lantern. They meet your eyes. You wait, and then they speak. We came to see what survived. You nod. More than you wanted. They glance around, at the chapel, at the wall of names, at the children dancing beneath the moonlight, calling out words that once would have vanished without witness. And then, quietly, we won't stop it anymore. You blink. What changed? The figure gestures to the square. You did. Then they step back into the night. Gone. No declaration, no punishment, just a departure. You and she look at each other. Say nothing, because what is there left to say? You return to the chapel just as the fire begins to fade. You open the book, the last page, not for endings, but for something softer. You write one line. We remembered, together. Then, you set it down, close the cover, and let it rest. Not hidden, not locked away, just waiting for whoever needs it next. You take her hand, step outside, and walk into the night. Not because the story is over, but because it no longer needs to be carried. It walks now, on its own. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
The wind has changed again. You feel it in the way the grass leans, in how the shutters creak, not from age, but from anticipation. There's something on the horizon, not danger, not quite, something else. An ending, maybe, or something that wants to be one. The village still wakes as it always has. Firewood is chopped. Loaves are set to rise. Children run with ink-stained fingers and ribbons tied to their wrists like miniature banners. But beneath it all, there's a stillness, as if the land is holding its breath, waiting. You and she sit by the well in the square. The stones have been scrubbed clean. New names are etched into them now, not carved deep, not in defiance, but gently, as if to say, we were here, and that's enough. You've written every day for weeks, not to explain, not to prove, only to preserve. The final pages of the book, the one that started it all, are nearly full. You saved the last few, not for your name, but for theirs, the ones who came and stayed and carried the story forward. She leans against your shoulder. You feel it? She asks. You nod. It's almost time. For them to come? For us to let go. She doesn't answer at first. Then, that was always the point, wasn't it? Not to hold it forever, just long enough. A child runs by laughing, their coat flaring behind them, stitched with names written in gold thread. Not for display, just for safekeeping. You smile. I think it's safe now. That night, the fires burn a little brighter. Not for warmth, but for gathering. The chapel is full. No books tonight, no speeches, just people. The first boy who wrote sits near the front. He's older now, not by much, but his hands are steady, his eyes sure. The woman from the coast reads a story she wrote herself, one that began with your words, but ends in her own. The girl who drew you all those nights ago stands tall, a ribbon tucked behind her ear. She sings a name you once forgot. She doesn't forget it. You and she sit near the back, listening. Not leading, just listening. And as the voices rise one by one, not with noise, but with memory, you realize the work is done. Not because there's nothing left to say, but because they no longer need you to say it. You step outside before the gathering ends. She follows. You walk the edge of the square, past the wall where names are still being added, past the stable where books are now wrapped in oilcloth and strapped to packs like rations, past the tree where the first traveler sat, holding the first folded page. And there, in the soft dark, the archives. Not an army, just one figure. No blade, no scroll, only a lantern. They meet your eyes. You wait, and then they speak. We came to see what survived. You nod. More than you wanted. They glance around, at the chapel, at the wall of names, at the children dancing beneath the moonlight, calling out words that once would have vanished without witness. And then
quietly, "We won't stop it anymore." You blink. What changed? The figure gestures to the square. You did. Then they step back into the night. Gone. No declaration, no punishment, just a departure. You and she look at each other, say nothing. Because what is there left to say? You return to the chapel, just as the fire begins to fade. You open the book, the last page, not for endings, but for something softer. You write one line. We remembered, together. Then you set it down, close the cover, and let it rest. Not hidden, not locked away, just waiting for whoever needs it next. You take her hand, step outside, and walk into the night. Not because the story is over, but because it no longer needs to be carried. It walks now, on its own. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
The village sleeps. Not from exhaustion, not from fear, just rest. The kind of sleep that comes when the world no longer feels like it might forget you in the morning. You and she walk its edge in silence. No destination, no task left undone. The chapel sits behind you like a memory already softened by time. The books are safe, the names recorded, the truth scattered, carried, planted in hands and hearts far beyond anything you ever expected. A soft breeze moves through the trees, brushing against the grass with the gentleness of someone saying goodbye, but not leaving. Not quite. You stop at the tree line. The place where the forest opens to the world, where the paths bend in a dozen directions, where stories go to begin again. She looks at you, not with a question, just with knowing. We won't come back, she says. No, you reply. Not as we were. You sit at the roots of the old tree, the same one you passed on your first night here, when your name was still buried and your voice still borrowed. It looks different now. Not larger, not smaller, just at peace. You close your eyes. The breeze carries with it faint sounds, not quite voices, not quite song. The hush of memory finding its own way forward. You feel your body soften. The weight you carried of stories, of silence, of being the one who remembered, it no longer presses on your shoulders. It settles in the world instead, in safe places. You think of all the pages, all the folded letters, the mirrors, the names, the children, and the ones who stood with you, and those who came after, and those who will come when neither of you are spoken of anymore, but somehow still felt. She leans against you, says nothing, because now there is nothing left to say, not out loud. It's all been written, and more will be written. You tilt your head to the stars. One blinks out, another appears. Time moves quietly through the sky, and you let it. You feel sleep coming. Not just for tonight, but the deep kind, the kind that doesn't end, just shifts, becomes something else. You rest your hand over hers. The last thing you feel is warmth, and the knowledge that everything you were afraid would vanish didn't. It lives now, where it always belonged.
in others. And so you sleep, not forgotten, but finished. And that was the story.